Well, hello there. Nothing like starting off the day with a cup of joe. And it sure does look like it's going to be a swell day out there. On top of that, we've got a fun little picture to watch. Pleasantville. It's a movie about a brother and sister who go on an adventure through their television set, and along the way, they learn a little bit about themselves. It's also an allegory for the social and civil unrest during the mid-century. What the hell am I doing? Pleasantville was written, produced, and directed by Gary Ross. It premiered October 23rd, 1998, starring Tobey Maguire as David, Reese Witherspoon as Jennifer, and a great supporting cast. So what's the movie about? Well, it's about David. He's a social outcast in high school, and he likes to escape into his favorite 50s sitcom, Pleasantville.
So join all your favorites, Mary Sue, Bud, George and Betty, and oh yes, Mr. Johnson at the soda shop.
At first, you really can't blame David for escaping into this show because, well, his real-world life is not painted as being all that favorable.
For those of you going on to college next year, the chance of finding a good job will actually decrease by the time you graduate.
The chance of contracting HIV from a non-monogamous lifestyle will climb to 1 in 150.
2.5 degrees, causing such catastrophic consequences as typhoons, floods, widespread drought, and famine.
We also have his sister, Jennifer, who really only seems to care about banging the bad boy at her school.
It's fun. Well, hello, he's not coming over to study.
One night, they're fighting over the TV remote because David wants to watch the Pleasantville marathon that he's been looking forward to all year, whereas Jennifer wants to put on a music concert because, well, her date's on the way. Unfortunately, they break the remote, but then almost immediately and mysteriously, a TV repairman shows up, played by the legendary Don Knotts.
TV repair?
He gives them a weird-looking metallic remote, and the next thing they know, they are transported into the Pleasantville TV series, taking on the roles of the two main characters.
Look at me! I'm pasty!
So now we have two 90s kids that are trapped in a 50s sitcom. I'm sure you can imagine the kind of goofy hijinks they're about to get into. Or can you? Part of the fun of the movie is watching David and Jennifer trying to adjust to the stereotypes of a 50s sitcom, including a hearty breakfast.
You read on up, then it's right off to school.
Or, as another example, the hometown sports team that never loses. Because it's impossible.
Come on, man, let's go.
What's interesting about this character-wise is that David is really enjoying himself.
Hello, Bud. Hello, Mr. Simpson. Hear your dad got a new car. Oh, yeah. A Buick. It's swell.
Don't misunderstand me. David is still looking for a way for them to get home, but he's taking this all a lot better than his sister Jennifer.
We're like stuck in Nerdville.
However, her mood does start to turn around when she meets the captain of the basketball team, Skip, played by the late, great Paul Walker. From here, it's when we start to see that both David and Jennifer are having an effect on this highly structured and sterile world, both positive and negative. A negative example is Skip's reaction to possibly being rejected by Jennifer.
I don't know what I'd do if she wouldn't go out with me.
Come here, guys. Don't touch it. Stay back.
On the other side of that, we see the unintentional good that David is doing for Mr. Johnson, the owner and operator of the local soda shop, who's played by Jeff Daniels.
When we close up, I close the register, then you lower the blinds, and then I turn out the lights, and then we both lock the doors.
Yeah.
And, well, you weren't around this time, so I did the whole thing by myself.
Wow.
The funny thing is, the event that really gets the story moving forward is not done by David. It's done by Jennifer when she's on a date with Skip and she decides to show Skip that they can do a lot more than hold hands.
I didn't think you'd want to come here until we'd been pinned for a little while.
Oh, Skip. You can pin me anytime you want to.
Jennifer starts a full-blown sexual revolution in Pleasantville, and because of this, both people and things start to turn colors.
Wow, what happened to your gum?
This leads to Betty, David and Jennifer's TV mom, played by Joan Allen, to do some, we'll say, exploring. I'm not sure I want to give away much more, but I will say this, that this scene with Betty may possibly be the most fucking amazing scene in cinematic history. With all this going on in the town, David can no longer avoid the changes that are occurring, especially after he receives an award for a good deed. The other young people of the town start to turn to him for answers as they no longer just want to have sex, but start to want to learn more about, well, anything and everything. Beyond the characters and story, this movie has some really great visuals, as you've probably already noticed. The combination of black and white with colors is not only used as a storytelling tool to show the expansion of this world and the growing of the characters within it, but it's also a really nice feast for the eyes. Just look at this scene of David and Margaret driving through the cherry blossoms. It's just wonderful. Now onto the antagonist of the film, Mayor Bob, played by J.T. Walsh, who at first comes off as a comically conceited authority type.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, here, go ahead.
Oh, don't be silly, Roy. I couldn't possibly take your spot.
Though many in the town are excited by the new possibilities that are now available to them, many are very resistant to the changes due to fear, confusion, or flat-out disgust, which leads to Mayor Bob becoming the leader of a movement to change things back to the way they were. Mayor Bob starts making moves, such as recruiting George, David and Jennifer's TV dad, played by William H. Macy, to the city council, which is considered a big honor, and, that's a good way to get somebody on your side. In his attempt to take things back to the way they were, he makes everyone think that what he's doing is noble, with lines like this.
It's a question of values. It's a question of whether we want to hold on to those values that made this place great.
And eventually implementing laws that are very restrictive. Several times throughout the movie, we see the Pleasantville city crest, two hands shaking, supposedly to symbolize peace and community. However, several times throughout the movie, we see it associated with Mayor Bob. This is indicating to the audience that perhaps the town crest didn't really symbolize what we all thought, or that at least Bob's actions are twisting it. Due to all the civil unrest in the second half of the film, we start to get commentary and allegory on subjects like racism.
I thought maybe it was because you were too busy entertaining your colored girlfriend.
Feminism.
You're going to be home at 6 o'clock every night, and you are going to have dinner ready on this table.
No, I'm not, sweetie.
And flat-out fascism. That's the interesting thing about this film. You go into it thinking it's a fantasy comedy because that's how it starts. But as we move along, it turns into a fantasy drama. Now that might throw off some people if you're expecting or wanting a comedy and it turns into this. But in my opinion, I think the transition is relatively smooth, which shows the skill of the filmmakers. The movie leads up to a confrontation between David and Mayor Bob, both representing their faction of citizens. There is so much more about this film I could go into, but I don't want to give away everything, and I'd rather that you discover it for yourself. So if you haven't seen Pleasantville, or if you haven't seen it in a while, go check it out right now.
Must be awful lucky to see colors like that. I'll bet they don't know how lucky they are.
You know, it's really funny. I remember when this movie first came out, It was pretty popular. A lot of people were talking about it and, all that, but no one seems to anymore. What are some good movies that you think people don't talk about anymore, but should? Leave your answers down in the comments, and I'll get to them when I can. In the meantime, do us both a solid by clicking the subscribe button if you'd like to see more videos. Otherwise, take it easy.